Does that resonate with you?
Not in a good way. What people don't realise that radical transparency, I always mean that really radical, everything is open sense. Rather than building trust, it destroys it. Why? Because it makes it redundant. The whole point about trust is that you trust a person to act as they ought to do, even when no one is looking, even when you cannot see. But if you can see everything, why bother with trust? And unfortunately, trust isn't something that sits on a shelf just waiting to be picked up or put down. It only grows and becomes more effective if you use it. In fact, you only understand what trust is if you engage in trusting, trustworthy relationships. We trust each other for the vast majority of exchanges on the basis that we don't quite know what's in someone's pocket or what they've got in their mind or things like that. So I understand it. I think there's a certain amount of transparency which is essential. It is good that people should know, not in order to supplant trust, but because they have a reasonable claim to know, because they're part of something. Say in internal communications, people working in an organisation have a reasonable expectation that they know what's going on. Of course, you can't always tell everybody everything, because sometimes you might be sitting on the precipice and you start and you go share all that and everybody panics, and in fact the matter's resolved the next day. So leadership in communications is also about exercising good judgment, discernment.
Understood. So when we talk about or think about ethical internal communications, we think broadly about three things. The first is you want an ethical boss who's a role model. The second is you want to feel valued, and you want to love your work. And the third is you want to feel indispensable.
Really high bar, because a lot of people, unfortunately, come to work out of necessity. In fact, if you ask them, where does the majority of your life focus go? It's not on work. Work is a means to an end. They say, no, where I derive meaning is with my family, with my friends, my sporting community, whatever it happens to be. And to be indispensable, right, I think that can also risk being slightly misleading, because none of us really is indispensable. There's always someone else, hopefully, coming up who can take over what we're doing.
No,
And it's
I agree
important.
with that. It's the sense that I agree.
I think
Nobody.
if you're saying it's the sense, if you wanted to sort of scale it back a little bit to something like, well, there needs to be a good role model, and I would add to that, not just that, but you also need to have systems, policies, and structures in the organisation that aren't undermining the message. And a lot of this undermining goes on by silent assassins, if you like, the things that you've created as a boss, but you don't realise the implications of it. So that's the first thing. Secondly, I'd say you want people to feel valued, that they have a value in themselves and because of their contribution, so that they are valued and their contribution is valued. And the third thing is that they come to work in a way which helps to affirm their life as a whole. It's part of how they flourish rather than being just a necessary evil. Now, if you can put together a package which communicates those elements with those very slight refinements I've suggested, then I think you're in the right space.
Simon Longstaff, thank you very much.
Pleasure.